So I keep trying to think about what their response would be. Would their response be, well, the W path, like we're working on the basis of the best available evidence? Would that be their response?
You know what their response is? Trying to send me to prison for 10 years, right? That's what their response is. Like, these people do not have a response because there is no response. What they rely on is bully tactics. They require brute force, right? They require censorship, ideology, the strictest, most rigorous adherence to a political ideology in order to justify the mutilation, manipulation, and sterilization of these young children. There is no response, which is why they yell and they scream and they censor and they destroy, right? That's why they have to take someone like me, a doctor, a surgeon, and they have to put me in prison. They have to try for 10 years because they know if other doctors start speaking out, then this delicate house of cards is going to come crumbling down, right? Because the one last thing between them and the truth are the doctors and the nurses standing in between. And now it's starting to crumble. So now they're getting more desperate. But with me, they chose the wrong person, right?
I love that. Oh my God, thank you for, I mean, that's the other thing is we're in a society that's experiencing a crisis of cowardice. And people, they're just not speaking out, I mean, about everything, about the whole range of things. So what is it, like, so you made a decision knowing that you could go to a federal prison. I mean, that's intense.
Yeah.
That's deep.
Yeah.
So why do you think you did that and your colleagues did? Like, what is it about you that made you speak out against something so ghastly?
I don't know. I think that over the past couple of years, right? I started my surgical training in 2018.
Yeah.
And I was able to see medicine before and after COVID and all the changes that happened during COVID. And like before, it seemed like it was like the apex of American medicine, where it was like this rigorous debate. Like people had these, like if there was an issue in medicine or surgery, like we would talk about it, we would discuss it in a really kind of spirited way. People would disagree with each other, but after COVID, all that changed. And that had an actual effect on people. And like everyone, I don't want to discount everyone's experiences because everyone experienced something very profound during COVID. Everyone lost things that were really, really big. But for me, I think it was unique because I was at like the bottom of the totem pole within the medical system. So I had the most contact with patients who were going through it. And I saw every single day how people would suffer and die alone, how they would spend weeks just going through the worst pain they've ever been going through. And then on the day of their death, it's just me, someone they hardly know, when they take their last breath. And then the guilt of their family for not being there during that last moment. And they have to carry that for the rest of their lives. But you know, I tried to fight against it, tried to do everything I could, but there's only so much I can do. And at a certain point, I become part of that system. I adopt that shame. But the worst part about all of it was what happened to the kids, because I was working at the kids' hospital too. So you would see like this abuse that was like never happened before. Because
what do you
kids,
mean abuse?
So kids were at school, right? They were being isolated. They had these masks on, so they couldn't say things. It was like once kids put masks on their face, like they knew that what they said didn't matter anymore. It was like, it was both a physical thing, but also a psychological thing. Kids couldn't express things. So when they would be abused, they wouldn't say it. So like we would have all these kids come in just dead because like they were being abused by like the baby's father because the mom was at work. So it was like these toxic environments. So the kids would get dropped, they would be shaken, they would just come in dead. So I became like very familiar with the sound a mother makes when you tell her that her child is dead. Like we had this one kid who came in, a bunch of her fingers were amputated, right? Because as a form of punishment, the parents would put the kid's fingers into a fan and they would just be cut off, right? But there was one thumb that was hanging on by a piece of skin and was getting infected. But this was like common, right? So I'm seeing all this And then at the same time, I'm taking care of these kids with like chronic medical disorders, right? Like muscular dystrophy, cerebral palsy, cystic fibrosis, right? Where you're operating on them and you realize that like they just want to live a normal life. And like with this transgender thing, it was only after COVID that I became more familiar with it. And in one sense, you have these kids, when you get to know them, you realize with chronic medical diseases, like they're just like regular kids, but like they just have the same dreams as everyone else. They just want to ride bikes, chase girls, you know, like go to prom, and their parents want the same thing for them. But like their life is not going to be like that because they have this chronic disease. And I would take them to the OR and I would operate on them, and you see like the pain and suffering they have to go through. But we would do that, you know, we would take these sick kids, try to make them better, right? And like it was so sad because like whatever freedom tiny bit they had was taken away because of a disease they had no control over. And then whatever was left was taken away during COVID, right? And then you have these other kids who are perfectly healthy, right? The kids who believe they're transgender. And then they're telling them that they're sick, but they're perfectly healthy. And in the same operating rooms, right? They're going in there and they're making them sick. They're making sure that both these populations are put into the same situation at the end, when it's the kids who have chronic medical diseases who wish like nothing else that all they could have was a body of this perfectly healthy child. But it's these doctors, right? These butchers who take healthy kids and make them sick. And like after making that realization, after seeing everything these kids had taken away during COVID, right? After seeing these kids going to the same operating rooms as these other people I was operating on, I knew that like something had to be done. Like it's horrifying, like the horror of like operating on people and seeing that is something I could never describe.
And yet other people, in fact, virtually everybody, if not literally everybody else, probably literally everybody else did nothing.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know why.
Well, they're cowards.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that, I mean, hundreds of people knew, right? I mean, this was prioritized in the hospital.
They knew.
Yeah.
And they did nothing.
Yeah.
And they were complicit in a lie.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that for me, it's like I couldn't live with myself, right? So it's not like bravery. It's like not bravery to do, right? It's just like I fear something greater than what they can do.
I totally get that.
So it's like how could I ever live with myself? You know, how could I ever look at myself in the mirror or go home to my wife and my kids knowing that I didn't do the right thing when it was most important?
And the consequence of that is they now want to throw you in prison.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this is just so crazy. Like, if this were just a little less crazy, I think it would be easier for people to understand. But it's just so crazy that it's hard for a normal person to listen to this and think that this is an accurate depiction of reality.
And especially when you look at like what they're charging me with, like there is such a disparity between the nature of their charges and the reality of the truth that I can't even begin to express it, you know? Like there was, when I first read the indictment, because I can't get into the details of it, because I have to wait for a trial, you know?
Sure.
But like when I first read it, I thought I was gonna like my heart was gonna drop, you know? But when I read it, the first thing was like relief, because it's like, yeah, this is political. These people are just as corrupt as I always knew they were. Like it's, and when trial comes, like people are gonna see it, you know?
Okay, so this is the thing. This whole thing is disturbing on multiple levels, but one level that's really disturbing is the political aspect of this. And I'm trying to frame this in a way or ask you the question that's not explicitly political, but the problem is the whole thing is explicitly political. So I'm not sure is it the Biden administration's? Like if Trump or RFK or some whether Republican or independent or libertarian would be in there, would the situation would you be as concerned that you're going to be in prison?
No, I think that, no, this is political, right? Because the nature of what they're going after me for would criminalize every doctor in the United States.
In terms of whistleblowing?
Yeah. It would shut down the door on any medical whistleblower for the future of the United States, right? So, this is political. And this is because you have a Department of Justice, Health and Human Services, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, right? The most powerful federal investigative agency in the history of the world, who has become weaponized against whistleblowers like me in order to destroy people like me. Because when you think about what's going on in major American cities, you have murderers, rapists, traffickers, drug dealers walking free, right? Not being prosecuted. But they're coming after me with the entire force of the federal government because I exposed that the largest children's hospital in the world was lying about a program, and within 24 hours it was reaffirmed as illegal. The hospital had acknowledged it was potentially illegal. They said they had shut it down, but they lied about it. This was a hospital that I was working at, I was operating at. But they say that I'm the one who's a criminal, right? Because they know they have to destroy me. But it's not going to happen because we're going to fight back with everything we have. And that's what people should understand is they think oh, it's so crazy for him to do this. It's not crazy. It's not. Other people are crazy for not doing it, because if things are bad now, then what is it going to be like in 10 years? My wife is pregnant with our first daughter. She's going to be born in October. And I might miss the first few years of her life, But
from a prison cell, from a federal prison cell.
And what kind of life would I be delivering her into if I didn't fight back, right? So that is what we should be more afraid of. Not what these people can do to us. That's what we should be afraid of. Because if we don't fight back now, then we're going to lose everything. And that's what the people listening to this should understand. I'm a no one. You guys saw where I live. We live in a small town because we wanted to move here, raise a family, live a quiet life, right? We're no one. We didn't want this, right? But when they came after us, we knew that there was no option but to fight back.